however long Mom bottled things up, sooner or later, she would smash that bottle. The part of Chicago where I lived had been a very fancy neighborhood once upon a time. In the early 1900s, movie studios sprouted up in Uptown. The silent film star Charlie Chaplin made movies there, and rich people lived among deluxe brick six-flats, department stores, and grand theaters. When I was growing up, there were no more silent movies, and mostly poor people lived in the buildings. But Mom never said poor. People in other neighborhoods were poor, but people around here were just broke. The apartments were crumbling but still spacious, with sagging balconies hanging in front and back, where broke people could sit and relax. Around 11 o'clock one summer night, I stood on the balcony of our apartment with my mother. A full yellow moon hung low and easy, leaning on a single cloud. The craters gave the moon a face, looking down upon the same scene as my mother and I. The cool winds off Lake Michigan wrapped my dress around my thin legs. My mother rested against the balcony railing, monitoring some teenage boys walking in the middle of the street. All was serene. A car came down the street, a shiny red Jaguar. It parked at the hydrant in front of the public housing high-rise next door. A man got out of the car and strolled into the condominium across the street, where rich people who were waiting for broke people to move out had begun to move in. He carried a six-pack of beer under his arm. "Schmuck," Mom said under her breath. "Look at that. How that schmuck parked at the hydrant. What a pig!" "Look at his shiny car," I commented. "What's wrong with buses?" Mom wanted to know. "Nothing," I said. "It just looks new. Do you think he's rich?" "Ha!" howled Mom. "Of course he's rich. Do you think a broke person just parks any old place? Ha! No, a broke person doesn't even have a car. Did you see him strut into that condo with his beer?" My mother could not seem to pronounce the name of any alcoholic beverage with anything but contempt. "What if the high-rise has a fire?" I asked. "What a joke! I'm laughing. Ha! What does he care, as long as he gets a space?" I interrupted Mom to pull at her sleeve and point. A police car was coming down the street. It passed the car without slowing. See, sneered my Mom. "He doesn't even get a ticket. Nothing to stop him from doing what he wants. Nothing to show him we don't like it." My mother shook her head. "And I don't like it." She went into the apartment and came back out again with a carton of eggs. "Ma! What? He's a schmuck. The man's a schmuck." "But, Ma, gee, you really gonna do it?" "No," she said. She opened the carton and handed me an egg. "Ma, that's not fair." "I'm your mother and you'll do what I tell you," she said plainly. "Now, hit the windshield." I held the egg in my hand. It was so cold and smooth. I smiled. Yes, he was a schmuck. Yes, let's bomb him. I looked at the shiny red car from our third-floor porch. Whose boss was he? "Hey, kitty, kitty." "It's pretty far," I pointed out. "You can do it," said my supportive mother. "Is anyone around? Is that police car around?" We looked up and down the street. Not a soul in sight. "Do it," Mom hissed. I pulled my hand back and flung the egg high into the air. Truly, one of the most beautiful things I've seen in my life was that little ivory missile passing across the moon. It glided through the air so slowly, as though it had wings. Considering it was an egg, it could have had wings, but we'll never know because it landed on the hood with a terrible splursh. "Pretty good," said Mom, handing me another egg. "Aim more to the left. Go, go, go!" I looked at my mom in disbelief and then pitched the egg. The thrill was not gone. Splurch! The egg splattered on the windshield. "Yay!" my mother cheered and hugged me. "Nice shot!" "Want me to do another one?" "No." My mother closed the carton. There are people starving. We don't want to waste. Do we have any bacon? I laughed. My mother put her arm around me. We're vigilantes, she sighed, looking down at our work. We're the egg patrol. Mom, I said, look at the moon. Doesn't it look like it's staring at us? Like it's mad at us? My mother nervously looked at the moon. No, she decided. It thinks it was a good joke. Mom, is this a bad neighborhood? Lots of nuts around here, she said. Well, what if that guy gets out of that party really late and he sees the egg on his windshield and it's all dried up? So he goes back to the party to get paper towels, and while he's wiping up the windshield, some guys come and hold him up and kill him. We were silent. Or what if he doesn't clean his windshield so he can't see where he's driving and he gets in a crash? Schweig, said my mother. That won't happen. We gazed down at the egg white, glimmering wet under the streetlight. He shouldn't park in front of hydrants. Well, that one time we did have a car, didn't you get $120 in parking tickets? Always talking, said my mother. You don't know when to stop talking. I looked up at the moon. No, I was sure it was frowning. Its crater eyebrows were all scrunched up with concern and disdain. I'm going in, I said quietly, and tucked myself into bed. I couldn't stop thinking about the frowning moon. My mother came into the bedroom and kissed me on my forehead. Ma, I feel guilty, I moaned. Shh, she was grinning. I feel guilty too. Wasn't it fun? Don't worry. Tomorrow you'll only feel guilty because you won't feel guilty anymore. Mom lay down beside me. We were quiet for a while. Mom? Uh-huh. When I throw eggs with my children someday, we'll clean up after. Oi, said my mother. That's a good girl. Chapter 2. My Neighborhood. Now, let me tell you something about where we lived. My neighborhood was my world when I was growing up. It was a very cramped world. I did not like to go outside much because I was scared of things. I did not like to walk around without my father because a lot of the men were out of work and would sit in their cars and on the stoops and whistle at my mother. There were bars and liquor stores everywhere, and people were often fighting. If I was standing alone and waiting at the corner for a public bus, men would pull up and open the passenger side door, and there would be money on the seat. My mother had taught me well enough not to get in, but it was still scary and shocking, and I had to learn to say no and look mad. When I got off the bus after school, sometimes I felt as though I was being followed, and I would wave up at empty windows to give the impression that someone had their eye on me. In fact, I could not go to the corner grocery store without one of my parents watching me the whole way from our window. My little brother was braver than I was and rebelled. He played outside and would not always tell my father where he was going. Even when he was very little, he was not afraid of taking dares and getting in fights and playing with matches if it meant he could make friends. He would be outside all day, playing baseball in the back parking lots. He had a much nicer time, I think. Here is a tour of some places you would have found in my neighborhood all those years ago. Take my father's hand, and you won't have to be afraid. Woolworth's. There was a store that they don't really have anymore. It was what my grandma called the Five and Dime, or Woolworth's. Nowadays we have Kmart and Walmart and Target, and Woolworth's was kind of like that, only the stuff was cheaper and easier to reach. They sold lots of everyday things all lined up in aisles: thread and yarn and needles, aprons, hanging plants and silk flowers, greeting cards, and perfumes that smelled like a drunk man's breath. The toys they sold were pretty good: bubbles, dolls as tall as I was, toy cash registers, doctor's kits with candy pills, and bags of little plastic dinosaurs that my brother liked. You could also get army guys or farm animals if you preferred. The best part of Woolworth's was the back of the store where they kept the live